It was 2012-ish. I had been divorced for about 3 years. I had allowed time for my kids to fall apart, to fully come out of the closet, happy coming out day last week, and to do a lot of therapy. I was thinking about maybe, possibly, maybe not, maybe someday dating again. It became a popular topic to broach with my friends, who often wanted to set me up with the worst matches. "What are you looking for?" they'd say. "Well, I don't want somebody who does X, Y, and Z. I don't want someone who is closed-minded or mean to waiters. I don't want someone who isn't okay with my kids or doesn't like my dog. And I don't want someone who is against my faith." It was a long list. And then, of course, there was that really smart friend who stopped me and said, "Okay, that's what you don't want. What is it that you do want?" That was much harder to answer. I knew I didn't want what I had rejected before, but I couldn't quite imagine what it was that I wanted to include in my life. It turns out I found a woman who works in construction. Hang with me, that metaphor will make sense in a minute. I find that this mindset is true in Unitarian Universalism as well. Most of us are very good at describing what we don't believe. God as a white male somewhere up in a sky, the concept of hell, the idea of original sin, the absolute truth and inerrancy of the Bible. Many of us don't believe that. But there are not as many of us who are as eloquent about what we do believe. Now, some people take years for the deconstruction process, that process of deconstructing what we don't believe. And it can take even longer, possibly your whole life if you have religious trauma to work through. Whether we do that deconstruction with bulldozers, raising it all at once, or with screwdrivers and wrenches slowly pulling apart the pieces, we create large garbage bins of what no longer serves us. But I worry that sometimes we finish the deconstruction project and don't spend as much time reconstructing what we do believe. We leave that lot bare, or with a few cement foundations that we never go and build something else on. Or for those of us who do build a structure of what we believe, we don't spend a lot of time decorating it, putting in shelves and appliances that we like, much less sitting in front of the fire of our newly constructed faith to savor in it. I mean, it does make sense. Both arms of our faith's heritage, the Unitarians and the Universalists, came from stating what they didn't believe. The Unitarians rejected the idea of Trinity, the Trinity within Christianity. They didn't believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost as three separate entities. They took the highly heretical stance that God was one being, hence the Unitarian name. And the Universalists rejected the idea that only some people were saved and went to heaven. They took the very heretical stance that everyone was saved by God's love. That idea that redemption was universal to everyone, no matter their faith, their location, or their actions. Hence the Universalist name. Now, since those times, most Unitarian Universalists have rejected far more than that. including the majority of Christian thinking, even though there are definitely still Unitarian Universalist Christians among us. And there have been times that certain Unitarian Universalists have embraced other titles as full identities, such as humanist, or pagan, or Buddhist. But honestly, the magic of Unitarian Universalism is that we don't have one label for people. We don't have a single creed or statement of belief that everyone has to agree to. Instead, we are creating a community where each person is finding what meaning is for them. Each person is creating their own home. They're building their own house. The reason this is so important is when times get hard, when we're struggling with the world, with what's going on in our life, with the challenges of everyday living, we can't be supported by what we don't believe. We need a strong undergirding of what we do believe to support us when times get rough. We need to know where our strength and our unity is. We need to know what grounds us. So this idea was, gratefully, I was reading my UU World this morning at breakfast. Our new president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt, spoke about it right on the opening pages. I am so grateful to her for that. She says, as a community, we have long relied on life experience to guide us in our religious explorations, saving us from, quote, living an unexamined faith, as our Unitarian theologian James Luther Adams regularly cautioned against. The key teaching from our common theological inheritance centers the value of faithful stories, most particularly when shared in beloved community. Now, the Unitarian Universalist denomination, which Sophia leads now, fresh on the heels of a very excellent UUA president that happens to come from this congregation. Yes, we are still very proud. Our denomination has helped in defining some guiding principles throughout the years. They have changed as our faith and our world has changed. In fact, our UUA bylaws say that they should be updated every 15 years. It has unfortunately been 35 years. But it is a process that is underway right now. And personally, they are statements that excite me and I feel can give us good direction as we continue to build and decorate and live into our collective and individual houses of faith. Each year, I do a sermon series, approximately one service a month on a specific topic. 2 years ago, I did it on the characteristics of white supremacy culture. Last year, we looked at liberation theology through the lens of different world religions. This year, we are going to explore each of the 7 proposed values of Unitarian Universalism. And we've built much more than just a service around each one. For each one, we're going to have a color. We're hoping to have some decoration up here in the altar. Georgia and Marlene, I haven't sent the email about it yet, but I'm hoping you'll say yes to decorating with us. We will have a children's ministry programming around each one of them. We will have some kind of service opportunity for each one. We have a monthly opening hymn that will tie to the value for that month. You've already heard the one that we've got for the month of October. And our small groups will have packets specifically for the values that we are exploring that month. Our hope is that the year will give us an opportunity to dig deeper into our faith, collectively and individually. Our faith is robust and life-giving. We draw on it every day to influence how we want to be in the world. And I invite you this year to work on your house, to build it if you haven't built it yet, to decorate it more if you have built it. And if it is built and decorated, I invite you to sit in front of the fire, surrounded by your faith. I want you to decide not just where you don't want to live, but building the size, the shape, the unique contours of the house that you do want. Furnishing it with items that bring you comfort and meaning, and decorating it with the items that represent your past, your present, and your future. So let's dig into these values. They will be changing slightly soon. There is an amendment process. It's very complicated by how we do this. There will be some slight changing in words from the amendment process that happened at our General Assembly this past summer. But each value has 3 levels to it. It has a word, like you see there. It has a description of what that word means. And then, importantly, I think, each one comes with a covenant, an action that calls us into how we live into that value in the world. So let's do this together, both all this year and right now. I'm going to read the word and the description, and I am going to invite you, yes, that includes you at home, to say it out loud. I can see you if you are. You will read the covenant. It doesn't start on the first one, that starts in the second slide. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these values are justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to life and to our Unitarian Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain a fully accessible and conclusive communities. Interdependence. We honor the sacred interdependent web of all existence. With humility, we understand our place in the web. We covenant to cherish Earth and all beings by creating and nurturing relationships of care and respect. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life, and we work to repair harm and damaged relationships. So this year, beloveds, may we build our houses to be strong and beautiful and personalized just to us. May we explore the richness of our faith. May we find ourselves centered in love always and surrounded by values that give us meaning, strength, and grounding. So might it be.